Jordan, could you run that market report up to me really quick? I need to read that to everyone so that we can get this latest market report. Awesome. Thank you, son. Okay. Helium is up. Feathers are down. Paper is stationary. Fluorescent lighting is dim due to light trading, and knives are up sharply. Cattle have steered the market into a bull, and pencils have lost points. Hiking equipment is rising, while escalators continue their steady decline. Weights are supported by heavy lifting, and all the light switches are off. Mining equipment just hit rock bottom, although diapers remain unchanged. Shipping is keeping an even keel. However, the raisin market just dried up. Soft drinks are fizzling. Nevertheless, Caterpillar stock is inching forward. Balloons are soaring on the inflation report, and this is the news. Batteries just exploded attempting to recharge the market. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, Scott's tissue just touched a new bottom. Now that's, to me, is about what a stock report is worth, because most people don't understand it. And I thought I understood money all my life, and we're going to talk about that because I bought into the idea that you never owed anybody if you paid cash for everything. And so you're going to see some things that happened in our life because of that. Life is a really brief moment on this planet. How many millionaires do we have in here? Raise your hand. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. How many of you in here have a kidney? Raise your hand. Have 2 kidneys? Raise your hand. How many of you have 2 feet? Raise your hand. How many have 2 hands? Raise both hands. Do you know there are hundreds and hundreds of people that would pay you $1 million easy for one of your feet? There's even more people that would pay you for one of your kidneys, way over $1 million. And so I want to give you a gift today, and you've got to come up here to get it. And so I want you to come up, and I want to hand you $1 million bill, because everyone in this room is worth more than $1 million. So come on up and get your $1 million, okay? There you go. Everybody is worth more than $1 million, because life, your wealth is about what you are after all your money's gone. Okay? There's more. Hang on. Okay. And when you get home, I want you to put this $1 million either on your mirror in your vanity, or I want you to put it on your car where you can see it, or on your computer so that you look at it every day and you remind yourself you're worth much more than a piece of paper. There you go. You're worth way much more than the numbers written on this piece of paper or any piece of paper, because you have more than 1 kidney, or you have 2 feet, or just because you are you. You have a soul. Okay. Don't be shy. Just come right over. I should stand up, make you guys come closer. There you go. That's better on my back. I only have 1 back. There you go. Awesome. You're worth more than that, Anthony. You too. And so are you, Evie. And so are you, Jim. There you go. And Denise.
Can I get one for my grandparents?
Yeah, you can have 2, 3. There you go. You're worth more than 3. There you go, Joe. There you go, Kendall. You see, life is a whole lot more than about money. It's about value. I told you that I was just at my in-laws' 50th. And at that 50th, I met the couple that introduced Michelle to me. They're 72 now. You know, do you ever have friends that you don't see for a long, long time and you can just pick up years later? I hadn't seen these people in 11 years. And here they were. They looked just like they did 11 years ago. only now they're 11 years older, just like I was. And we got to talking and just having a good time. And he takes me aside and he says, I haven't told anyone this, Tom. Just the family knows it. But, I own that apartment building downtown. And, the office I had and how we sold it and to the Arco station. They built that big Arco and that mini mark on it. We made a lot of money on that. And he says, but we took some bad advice. He says, Tom, I don't have anything, not a dime to my name. He says, the IRS, they're taking my Social Security check. He says, I had to go back to work. I've got $6,000 a month I've got to pay at 72 years of age. And all the money I had all my life. I never thought it would be hard to make money. I've never had a problem in my life making money. I mean, I've bought cars and given them to people. And I've bought, put down payments on houses to give people to live in. And he says, this is really hard for me because I've always had money. I've always been able to. And he says, the car I'm driving was given to me. And he laughed and he says, isn't that the way God works? I gave someone cars, now they're giving me one. He says, our roof. He says, it needed a roof. I couldn't afford the roof, and so my brother-in-law came over with a bunch of guys and put it on for me. He says, it's so embarrassing, Tom, when the mortgage company calls and says, you're late on your mortgage. I say, I don't have the money. 72 years old, starting over again. He says, what really hurts, Tom, is that my wife only has 30% of her liver working right now. And I can't afford the medications that she needs to keep her functioning. All because I took some bad advice. And he says, I want you to take my story and I want you to tell it to those people that you're going to be speaking with next week. Because I should have listened to you 11 years ago when you talked to me about protecting my assets and the perpetual wealth code. Because we wouldn't be in this position if I'd have listened to you. Value. Where do you place your value? And he said to me, he says, I was wrong. I put my value on my money. I was kind of proud about it. And he says, Tom, that's not where it's at. It's about what you have once all your money's gone. And that's what I've been saying for years, and it was so good to hear this dear friend of ours who went out of his way to introduce this bachelor to one of the most lovely people in the world, Michelle. Where do you value yourself? Where are your values? Because if your values are focused on the wrong thing, the reaper does have to be paid someday. So we need to make sure that our values align up with what our purpose is in life. Because if they're conflicting with each other, something's going to happen that destroys what we value most so that what is most important can replace it. Do you value security, money, savings, freedom? I think we all value liberty. And that's what's made America different than any other country in the world, is our liberty to do what we need and want to do as long as it's not hurting or offending somebody else. And we need to cherish those values and make sure it happens, because that's where security, that's where freedom, that's where money, that's what makes America great. That's what has made this country what it is. How many of you today would like me to share with you a way where you could increase your cash flow, that you could keep more of what you make? Anyone want to see that? And that you could recover money that you spend. That's one of those oxymorons, isn't it? But you'd like to hear that, wouldn't you? Okay. Awesome. But I want to warn you right now, nothing worth doing is ever easy. So are you willing to think outside the box with me today? Yes, all right. Are you willing to do whatever it takes so that you can practice what works instead of what everybody else is doing? You know, we like to fit in with the crowd. We like to be accepted. And so we have to be different. We have to be the big nut that rises to the top because we want to get definitive results. And what that means is that you have to do what's right. And doing what's right is not easy. And there's nobody that I know of that amplifies this better in her life than someone in this room. You see, you've got to stop what doesn't work because you are worth more than that. Here's the good news. I'm not going to ask you to join an MLM. I'm not going to ask you to join a pyramid company. And I'm certainly not going to ask you to make cold calls. I'm not going to ask you to wrestle the market. But I am going to ask you to think about the simple complex called the perpetual wealth code, how it's simple, it's strategic, and it's straightforward. Why is it simple? Well, it's simple because it's not easy. Einstein said that. Just because it's simple doesn't make it easy. And so, what do we have to do to make it, to be able to do this? We have to be prepared. And like I said just a moment ago, there's not anyone that I know that can exemplify this better than a lady in this audience. And I'm going to ask her to share here in just a little bit. But this lady is very, very astute at making sure that she is prepared for things that might happen in the future. Because when the time comes that something has to happen, or an action has to be taken, or something happens that you didn't realize was going to happen, if you're not prepared, you're out of luck. Tammy Scriven, would you come up and share how you prepare in your life and how that has changed your life for the better? We need a mic. Here it is. Sorry, Tammy. There we go.
Well, when I was growing up, we had very little materialistically, but I grew up in a home full of love. And we learned how to work hard and how to save. That's been one of the biggest blessings that I was ever given. Then, when I got married, my husband and I started saving whenever we could. And we decided to buy some property that we saw that it was at a reduced rate. And then we took that property and sold it again for a higher price and financed it. And we did that a few times, and it worked well for us. But then, as time went on, we realized if we did not do something more, we were never going to have enough to retire. So we looked around, and we decided to go the traditional route that most people go. We invested in the stock market. We did fairly well at first, and then when the recession of 2008 hit, it hit us really hard. We started losing money so fast, it was just heart-wrenching. And before long, we had lost most of that hard-earned money. We were devastated. It was literally going to take us years just to get back to where we were. And so we started talking, there has to be something that works better than what we're doing. And so as we're thinking about this, my husband met Tom McFie, and he went to a life benefit seminar. And he came home really excited, and because of the losses we had sustained in the past, I was like, wait a minute. I was really skeptical. What's the catch to this one? Well, at least I was willing to check it out. So I read Tom's book, Prescription for Wealth. As I started reading that book, I got about halfway through, I was starting to get excited. When I finished that book, I had done accounting, and so numbers made sense to me, and I thought, this will work. I could see the picture. I was so excited. Well, right away, I was like, yes, we need to do this, and we need to do it now. So we called Life Benefits, and we got a policy on my husband. A few months later, our daughter was 9-year-old at the time. We got a policy on her because we wanted to start her early so that she would have the benefit of practicing the perpetual wealth code from a young age, and that way it would just be a part of her life. A couple years later, my husband passed away unexpectedly. I was a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling our daughter. Overnight, I was responsible for all of our living expenses, the house payment, the car payment, groceries, all the bills. But fortunately, we had planned ahead, and during that time of extreme grief and pain, I was able to be home with our daughter and give her the support that she needed. And it also allowed me time to heal before I went out and had to seek a job myself. You know, when we bought that policy, we were really focused on what it could do for us now. We weren't as focused on that death benefit. But after going through what I've gone through, I really see the importance that every person have a policy in that death benefit. Because things in life happen that we never expect to happen. And having that is really one of the greatest gifts that I've ever had. It takes care of your family when you can't. And you know, today, having policies is still improving our quality of life. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of things that we've done. Last year, my daughter and I were able to take a trip to Hawaii using the cash values from her policy. And we were able to spend this great time with family. Another thing that I have done and that I'm doing right now is I have a friend who flips houses. He buys these houses that need some work done on, and he's always looking for personal lenders. Well, I happen to be a friend of his, and so he borrows money from me, pays great interest rates, and I'm in my second venture with him right now. I'm learning that the possibilities are literally endless, what you can do. And you know, not only is it a huge benefit for me personally and my daughter, it's allowed me to be a bigger blessing to other people. My passion is helping abused women and children to find hope, healing, and a new life through a ministry that I started called Haven of Hope. Practicing the principles that Life Benefits has taught is allowing me to make a difference in many people's lives today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You have to be prepared. And that's simple, but sometimes it's not easy because you have to give up something. You have to decide what it is that you're going to cut out of your life today so that you can be prepared for the unexpected or the unplanned for. And that takes discipline. Besides, nothing that's easy is worth keeping, is it? We've heard that saying, and it's absolutely true. If it's not going to last if it's easy. You haven't put any sweat into it. The perpetual wealth code is strategic. What do I mean by strategic? I think this word comes to mind. It's logical. It's logical because it follows a pattern that can be repeated over and over again. In fact, the perpetual wealth code, as most people in this room know, is based on participating whole life insurance, which has guarantees. So now we have a logical plan that's guaranteed. And why is that so important? Because you've got to take the out of life so that you can have something that's irrational become rational. I talk to so many people every day of the week that are so just all uptight because they don't know what their money's doing. They don't know what the junk in their financial drawer is there for. They don't know how it works. And so therefore, they're not getting the positive results that they're looking for in life. So what we do at Life Benefits is we take the out of that and make something that is irrational become rational. It's straightforward. Like I said, I'm not a numbers person. It's got to be pretty simple for this old boy to get it, all right? But once I understand something, then I'm like a bulldog and I follow it and I won't let go because I know it's working, why give up? And the perpetual wealth code creates viability, which is profitable, which is profits. And you know, in high school, I ran the 400 meter. And I was fairly fast. I ran a 47.9 at one time. I couldn't even probably get out of the blocks today. But my coach wanted me to become a rabbit for the mile relay, or for the milers, because I could pace them. Won lots of races. I went to school. But that wasn't my calling. After college, I ran through college. I went and I did an open 800. Just at an open track meet. And I said, this was the race I was born for. And I just sailed through it. It was so beautiful. Whereas I never ran the open quarter one time without feeling like I wish I had died, because your buns feel like they're going to fall off and you feel like you're going to puke, and I had blisters all over the bottom of my feet. That wasn't my race. And so why are we trying to do something that doesn't fit us? So we want something that's straightforward and easy to follow. And that's what the Perpetual Wealth Code does, which means, ladies and gentlemen, that you can do it too. Simple, but it's not easy. And I don't see Dr. Mace here yet, but Dr. Mace was going to talk about this because this is what a lot of people really want to do in life. But I want to tell you something. As a doctor, I know, and Derek, as a doctor, you know, you have 5.5 liters of blood in your body. Derek, if I ask you to get up and run around this arena 3 or 4 times, would your body produce more blood? No, it's not going to produce more. In fact, if it produced more blood, you might stroke out, right? Because your body can't handle it. But what is your heart going to do? It's going to increase its rate of beat. And so the volume of blood that your heart now is pumping is going to be tremendously higher than you just sitting here listen to me talk, right? That is the same thing that happens in money, with money. Rabbi Lapin says that the word for money and the word for blood are the same word in the Hebrew language. It's a word, I think he spells it D-A-M-I-M. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. But he says it's because they do the same thing in their own environment. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about how your money, which is your economic blood, needs to circulate under your control, or you're bleeding to death, or if you've got it hoarded away someplace, stuffed in a closet, a shoebox, a bank account, a 401k, or something where you can't touch it and control it, it's not doing you any good because you can't circulate it without a penalty, a fee, a service charge, or exorbitant taxes. Does that make sense, folks? So, what we want to do is we need to realize that this is all possible, and we don't necessarily have to make more money to become wealthy. So someone over here talked about, what if I'm on a fixed income retiring? We're not making more money here, folks. We don't have to make the perpetual wealth code work. What we have to do, though, is learn that we've got to control the money that does come into our life, that is in our life, so that we can recirculate it over and over and over again, just like Derek's heart did when he ran around this arena or he had dropped over and died. And that's what's happening to so many Americans today. They've got this grand dream of retirement. And they get there and they don't have enough heartbeat to circulate the blood that they stored up for retirement. And they run out of money, which is a scary thing to do. But I don't want to put you on a guilt trip because I've already been there with my family. So I want to share with you a little bit of what happened to us. We were told to cut up our credit cards because that was an evil thing to do. Bad thing to buy on credit because you should owe nothing to anybody. We bought used cars because if you bought a new car, that was a waste of money. These were things that I grew up with. These were the things that I carried around financially as my burden. And we bought our clothes from used clothes stores. Nothing wrong with this. But we shouldn't feel shamed and guilty if we bought a new car or we bought something nice at the store or went to Nordstrom's to buy something nice every once in a while either. And that's what was happening to us. And basically what was happening, there was no fun in our life. We were bound by this legal, rigid system that says if you pay anything besides cash for your purchases, including our homes, then you might be evil. And so we paid cash for clothes and cars, our medical expenses, our appliances, all of those things. And we went without until we saved enough money to do it. And we still didn't have any money. And at 45, I woke up and I said, what in the world is wrong with this philosophy that I have believed and practiced so faithfully all my life? And I'm going to show you here in the next few slides what was wrong with it. I'm going to talk about our houses. Now, I could talk about our cars. I could talk about all the appliances. I could talk about all the clothes that we bought. I could talk about everything that we paid cash for. But I just want to focus on our houses today. Is that okay? So we bought our first house. Our first house when we were married cost $53,000. It was a little bit less than 1,100 square feet. And one day I came home and we had 5 kids. And Michelle was pulling her hair out, and she said, Tom, I feel like I'm going to go crazy. And I said, no, honey, we need a bigger house. But I couldn't afford a bigger house because we hadn't saved enough money for it. And I couldn't buy a house unless I paid cash for it, right? You see, we paid this house off in less than 5 years by being very, very frugal and paying extra money to it. So the house cost $53,000. The monthly payment, if I'd have just paid it, would have been $317 at the time. But I ended up paying it all off way early. And so what happened to all that other money? Well, we sold that house and made a profit of $62,000. And I thought, hey, this is working. I made money. 53 from 63, I made a little $21,000 there. So we put that money that we bought that house, and we had a rental house at the same time that we sold. And the next house that we bought, we paid cash for it. I remember writing that check for $107,000 and thinking, yeah, I won the game. Because that's how I'd been taught. That was the game, is to pay cash for your house. And for the next 3 years, uncontrollable things happened in our life that I thought the tax man was going to come repossess our house because I couldn't pay the tax bill on time. Things completely out of my control. We pulled through. We ended up selling that house for $150,000 just 5 years later. $43,000 gain. Well, I was getting a little smarter maybe. The next house, I didn't pay cash for it, but I put a huge chunk of money down on it that I didn't have to. I put $60,000 down on it. I really probably could have got by with putting like maybe 10 at the time with the way the loan market was working. But we paid extra payments because I still wanted to get rid of that mortgage, that evil that was hanging over me. We sold that house and we made a profit for $35,000. So here we are now in our fourth house. And by this time, I'd woken up and realized something's not right with paying cash with everything for here. And so we ended up getting a 0 down because that was, all you had to do is sign your name back in those days to get houses like this. And so I signed my name. Michelle signed her name, and we got this nice house. But we were still paying the mortgage on the house that hadn't sold in another state. And we had this mortgage, and that's another story I'll tell you about. But we ended up selling this house for $527,000 about 6 months ago. Well, we made a pretty good profit on that, $210,000. So our profits to date are $350,000 buying and selling our homes. How many would like that profit? That's not bad, okay? But this is where I might shed a few tears, because I went back and did the math on this stuff when we moved to Nevada, because I wanted to see what would have happened if I knew about the perpetual wealth code when I bought that first house. Well, here's the houses and the profits, okay? First house we made, sold it for 62, 43, 35, 21. Okay, so those are the profits we made on our houses. That comes up to $350,000. Now, if I would have known about the perpetual wealth code and taken just the difference of what I paid extra on all those houses with, kept making my house payments, I would have still made the same profit on my houses when I sold them. But I would have made another $741,000 if I would have participated in the perpetual wealth code. So together, I could have had over $1 million. And this is what makes me cry. My kids, when I was 85 and probably out of this world and gone on to glory, would have had $4.3 million. Total profits to date, I threw away the difference between $350,000 and $1,091,000. Plus, we still have a nice home. Okay? So which do you want to have? Let's go back to the retirement question here now. Let's say that, everybody's working for this magic goal of retirement, and we get there, and I have this $350,000 that I got out of my houses. And I can get somewhere around 4.24, and I have that in there for a reason, that 4.24. We'll talk about it later. And I start letting it grow from the time I'm right now, 55, until I'm 86. And I want to live on that, and I want to have a salary of $80,000 a year. So I'm getting my Social Security, and I'm taking money from this $350,000 that's earning 4.24%, and I'm going to spend it down over my retirement years. From 67, and I'm out of money at 85. Well, my dad is 88 years old, and it cost him over $10,000 a month to live right now where he's living. Where's that money going to come from? This is the problem that many people are facing today. They've saved up a lot of money, but it's not working in a position for them to be able to benefit them if they live beyond a certain age. So what if I would have taken the other route, the perpetual wealth code route, and I would have taken and put the difference into life insurance policies, bought them and had the $1,091,000, earning the same interest rate, I would have never run out of money. Because when I got to 95, I would have still had over $220,000 left at that point. And not very many people live over 95, although I know a few people that do. But then there's the issue of paying taxes. So I said we were going to have fun with real estate and other things. Well, we talked about the real estate, the guilt trip I went on, and what it cost me. So let's talk about the guilt trip I went on paying taxes. Again, I paid cash for my taxes. I didn't even let it come out of the escrow payment. I wanted to write that check every year, so I'd save up in a separate account because I wanted to keep control of everything, okay? Well, if I'm saving in a traditional savings account and I take that money out to pay my taxes, what happens to any growth on it? It's lost forever, isn't it? Because I took the money out. No interest growth, no compounding growth there. What if I put it in a 401k and try to pay my taxes out of a 401k? What happens there? I pay a 10% penalty plus taxes. That's double taxes. What if I put it in an IRA? Well, again, I've got a penalty and taxes if I use it for anything other than what the IRS says I can use that money for. Or a Roth. Well, if I pay my taxes out of a Roth, I violated the rules. You think I'm going to get a penalty for that? Absolutely. So if we use the perpetual wealth code, this is what happens. If I save $1,000 a month, which I tried to do so that I could pay my taxes, both property taxes and income taxes, then that's $60,000 over 5 years. So if we decide then to pay our taxes, and we're just going to pay $3,000 of taxes out of there, so you can see the number difference here. We pay $3,000 out of that savings of $1,000 a month every year. Then we can do it monthly, and if we do it monthly, when we get through paying our taxes, we've lost the interest on that, okay, if it's earning 4% in a savings account someplace, and we only have $44,673. We don't have $60,000. If savings accounts earning 1%, okay, excuse me, the first one is if I was making payments in the rears. So I didn't pay my taxes, then they're going to charge me an interest rate because I didn't pay them. That's what that's going to look like. The second one is if I save up in a savings account. If I save it up in a savings account, I lose the interest on that. And so when I finish paying my taxes at the end of 5 years, I only have $46,000, not $60,000. Even though the interest on that grew that $60,000 to $61,000. But if I'll use the perpetual wealth code, then I can do the same thing that I did with my savings account, and I'll have grown my money to $63,000, and after I pay my taxes, I'll have $48,000. Which one do you want to do? Do you want to have $44,000, $46,000, or $48,000 doing the same thing with the same amount of money? It's pretty simple, isn't it? So the perpetual wealth code is simple. It is strategic. And it is straightforward because it just makes sense. And that's what we want to leave our message with you today, because there's no excuses for not doing it. There's absolutely no excuses for not doing it. Has this been helpful for anyone today? Raise your hand. Awesome. And so I want to leave you with this message today, that if you are not participating in the perpetual wealth code, you are losing money. And you don't even know it. If you are, I want to congratulate you, because you are on the road to building wealth. And wealth is not built overnight. Aesop told us the story of the tortoise and the hare, and the tortoise always wins the race, slow and steady. And this is a slow and steady, simple, strategic, straightforward method that will create wealth in your life beyond anything that you can imagine. Thank you very much.